I have found footprints indeed, and I thought it might be quite nice because this is a very pleasant stretch of road to chat a little bit about the various tracks that we see, because my dwarf mongoose tracking so far has been hugely unsuccessful, but I mean enormously unsuccessful, to the point I think I might actually have seen a squirrel and not a dwarf mongoose. I think I'm losing my mind. Speaking of squirrels, that is the track I wanted to show you, and for a very good reason. I didn't ask it as a track quiz because I actually want to talk about it in relatively great detail. This is the squirrel track over here. This is it here. This combination of 4 little feet. And the way that squirrels move, come here. This is its front 2 feet over here. These are the back feet. So it's landed with its front feet, and then the momentum of its bound has put its back feet ahead of it. And then it pushes off its back foot, and look at the distance. Look at the distance here between this track where its back feet pushed off, and you can actually see the flick back of the sand here as it's pushed looking for traction, bounced all the way here. And the distance, what is that, about half a meter, that this tiny little squirrel's gone. There, his front feet have landed there. So he stretched out his front feet as he leapt here. He stretched out, you can picture him, envision him. He stretched, he landed, back feet went ahead on the outside, landed there. And his next track he pushed off again, stretched out, front feet landed here, back feet landed over there. Look at the distance that he's covered in one stride. That's about a meter, I would say. That's 3 feet. Give or take. That's more than half of my body length in one bound. Bounce, land. And that's the entire distance that the squirrel has covered. And that's why I wanted to show you these tracks, because it's interesting. The fact that they do cover such enormous distances as they leap. The next one's here. And then the rest of them have been completely driven over. Right, good news is Tristan has managed, he's having a wonderful morning, he's managed to find you the largest lizard species we get.
We are having a wonderful morning, so unfortunately we didn't find much more on our hyenas, but we have found a big lizard. And you can see it's just sitting enjoying the morning sunshine and warming itself up so that it can start getting moving and going and get to try and find some food. So it is a rather large monitor lizard. It's a water monitor, and we get 2 different species here. We get these water monitors and the rock monitors. Now the water monitor is easy to identify. Other than the fact that it's near water, it's also got these sort of yellowy green hues in the body, and then they have that long pointy nose, whereas the rock monitor is a more grey colour with that big rounded blunted head. Now this guy, let's see if his tongue will come out, because it will be a really cool shot if his tongue does come out. You can see there's a little spider web in the background there as well. But hopefully you will be able to see that forked tongue coming out and tasting the air. You can also see the ears and the eyes. And this is a really sort of unusual for us, because we don't typically get this close to them right out in the open. Generally they scurry for some sort of vegetation. And so to be able to actually see him out in the open like this is really, really cool. There we go, where's the tongue? Come on, stick your tongue out. Now they'll use that tongue just to be aware of their environment, so they taste the air and they kind of will put it out to be able to see what's around them. In this situation he can actually see us, so we don't have to worry too much with the tongue. They can be able to use the ears to hear me and the eyes to see me because of the proximity that we're at. That monitor lizard is probably, I would say, no more than 10 meters from where we are, and it's just giving us the beady eye. And I think the reason why it's sitting there and not moving is because it doesn't really have many places to go. We're on top of the dam wall, and there's only the water behind it, which it could potentially go into, but given that it's still quite cool this morning, I would imagine the water itself is quite cold, and so rather than doing that, might as well just use his camouflage. And look at how well they actually do camouflage. Can you imagine if that head was down and it was just sitting dead still? It would become quite difficult for us to actually see that monitor lizard, but luckily its head is up, which made life a little bit easier. Now you can see, look at the size of those feet as well. What people don't often realize with these monitor lizards is just how bulky their legs and feet are. It almost looks like a dragon's foot, doesn't it? It's really big and thick, lots of muscles there, and then those big long claws that it uses to help grip its terrain when it's climbing. Remember, these are really good climbers. They'll be able to go up trees and up these sort of steep banks that are slippery sometimes with mud, and those claws all just provide the traction to be able to get up there. That is a very, very cool visual. It's not going to get much better than that for a massive lizard like this. Now you can see the body kind of goes backwards, and then there is a massive tail as well. There's the back legs, and then look at the thickness of the tail. Huge amounts of muscles there that are able to propel this lizard as well as to defend it. So not only will they use that long muscular tail to be able to swim with, you can see it still goes around the corner there, that's quite big. They'll use that to be able to swim and propel themselves in water, but if they're attacked by something, they'll also whip with that tail, and you can imagine with a long thin end how sore it must be if it actually hits you. And so they'll try and defend themselves with that long whip-like tail from time to time. They also have the most incredible bite on them, serious force when they bite down, and so you don't want to be on the wrong end of one of these guys. So, Michael, you're wondering if the rock and water monitor ever interbreed. Well, not as far as I know. I've never seen anything that suggests that they do, and I've never seen anyone or any particular individual that resembles either one. So, as far as I know, no, they don't. Nature is quite clever in that way, that they often will kind of inhabit different areas, and they know that one is not of the same species, and the only time we see interbreeding amongst animals is generally when people have forced it by putting them together in the same area, or actually using their genetics in a lab to make a cross species. But out here, no, you won't see that, and I certainly never have. I don't think James or Jamie would either. No. What's going on? Are you alert to us? I think it wants to move, but it's kind of trying to use that tactic of staying dead still in order for us not to notice that it's there. So, Anna Marie, you're wondering if there's a difference in the diet between the rock and water monitor. Well, small differences. So, both of them will feed off carrion from time to time, and you will find that they will go after varying insects and small mammals if they can get hold of them, and both have an affinity to eggs. So, rock monitors more birds' eggs in the trees, whereas the water monitors tackle the birds that are on the ground, as well as the crocodiles that lay their eggs and varying other lizards. So they both really do enjoy eggs, but you'll find the water monitor is adept at hunting in water, so it'll go after a lot of frogs. I've even seen them catching fish from time to time. They'll go after aquatic insects, so that's really what their main diet is, whereas the rock monitor is not so much in the water, so frogs and those kind of things are not hugely on its menu, although rock monitors will take frogs if they find them on land, so particularly at night, and when we got those sort of breeding times of the bullfrogs like we had in the summer where they were everywhere, you find the rock monitors will take advantage of that and feed off frogs. But generally it's sort of the water monitor is more aquatic species in their diet, whereas the rock monitor will hunt more lizards and geckos and birds in the trees, their eggs, and so more terrestrial species. But otherwise very, very similar in terms of what the size of animal that they hunt, and the sort of types of animals that they hunt is all sort of the same, you know, in terms of reptiles and birds and those kind of things. It's just different species that inhabit different areas. Now, I'm sure that at some point this little monitor is going to start moving. So Stanley, you're wondering if these guys... Oh, you see the tongue coming out? How cool is that? Well done, Seb. You're wondering if they have bacteria in their saliva, much like what the Komodo dragons do. Well, no, not as hectic as what the Komodo dragons do, and that's because they don't really feed off massive rotting carcasses and things like that. You'll find that there is bacteria in there, and a bite from one of them won't be that pleasant, and you'll have to definitely disinfect it, but they don't have that level of toxin that the Komodo dragons do. I've seen many a person bitten by one of these, and they've all survived just fine, and actually have had really no terrible damage other than a nasty wound. And it's quite amazing how strong their jaw power is. I was talking about it just now, but when one of these guys latches onto somebody, it is quite something to try get them off. I remember there was a guy that I knew that was trying to be brave and trying to catch one of these, and he picked it up, and it basically got hold of him on the hand between his thumb and his forefinger, so on that nice soft sort of fleshy part, which we can imagine is not very comfortable at all. And we had to actually pry the jaws of that monitor lizard off using pliers. So we had to use our Leathermans to get in there and actually try and open them physically, and it was with much effort that we had to get those jaws open. And that poor guy was wailing the whole time, which I didn't really feel sorry for him, because if you want to pick up things like this, then you must suffer the consequences of being bitten, as far as I'm concerned. Alright, buddy, well, I think we're going to leave you to your morning's sunbathing. So, dear watcher, as Kirsty says on that note, no, probably not a very good pet. They can be quite aggressive. I suppose if you had them from very small, they might sort of identify with you and be okay. And I know there have been one or two crazy people out there that have tried to keep them as pets, but generally you'll find anything that is not commercially available as a pet these days is probably not something you should be keeping as a pet. So, as humans have developed and made trials and sort of errors on things, they've realized that certain animals are not great pets and others are better. And so if you don't find these guys in pet shops, you can understand that they are not the best things to have. They also get really big, and this is a big specimen, but not as big as they can get. They can get to sort of 2 meters long with the tail, so they're a big animal, and which means that there's really not too many places that you can actually keep them, and so that's why they don't make great pets, and they are, like I say, quite feisty as well. Right, our monitor is going to continue his sunbath, I think, and I hope he has a wonderful day and it doesn't get accosted by any predators. Now, we're going to carry on and try and see what else there is. It seems to be very quiet. There's no further updates from any of the other guides, and it seems the wild dogs crossed into Simbambili, unfortunately for us. So I think we're going to try and just go and see. I might go towards Arathusa airstrip. I want to go try and see if I can't find our jackal pair that was around that area. And so while we do that, let's go to James Hendry and see what he's up to in his laboratory.
It might be very quiet out in the bush looking for big animals, but in the context of the lives of these termites and ants, it could not be more traumatic than it is right now. This is a raid. The red ants have attacked the termite colony and seem to be overwhelming the much larger cockroach-related animals. And where they're taking them, I'm not sure, but if you look down to the bottom of your screen, you might just be able to see a pathway where I'm pointing now. And it seems that the ants are going to and fro on that pathway. In fact, they are, and they're carrying little baby termites with them. Isn't it amazing how you can look down to the scale of something this size, and this could not be more traumatic. This is a massacre. It's a complete massacre. There is more violence than these termites will ever experience. Some termites will go through their whole lives never having experienced any violence, just like some people will. But these termites are experiencing the worst possible kind of violence. They're being kidnapped and killed and then dragged off towards the red ant nest where they will be eaten. And so while it's completely quiet, where Tristan is on the macro level, on the micro level, there is massive large-scale trauma. And if I point in here, can you see there, Craig? Yeah. That termite, for example, is being carried away by a whole lot of ants. There are no soldier termites here. In fact, let's go down to here. This one is trying to fight away, but it's being killed. There are a whole lot of them there, struggling, completely overwhelmed. And I don't know why there are no soldiers here. They look to be worker termites. Where they've come from, I don't know. I think they're probably living inside this log that I'm lying on, actually. And maybe they were out gathering this piece of grass. But they're in big trouble now. Leo, you want to know how big termites get? Well, the major soldier of a Macrotermes natalensis will get as big as, probably almost the length of the last joint of my thumb. So between the end of my thumb and that piece of grass. That's probably how big they get. But they're not common, those ones. They have enormous heads with vicious pincers on them, and they will draw blood. But here, there appear to be absolutely no soldiers at all. Just the tiny little workers. Now, I know this is far too traumatic for most people to continue watching, so let's move away from this to something endangered, but more cheerful.
Well, cheerful is right, because it is probably the most beautiful bird that we have out here. The saddle-billed stork is one of my absolute favorites. Look at the beauty on that bird. You see all the vibrant colors. It's got those blacks and whites, and the blacks often have iridescence in them, and then that bright red beak and yellow eye. Now, this particular one is a female, and the reason we know it is a female saddle-billed stork is because it has the yellow eye. The male has a dark eye. He does not have a yellow eye at all, and she's busy moving around at Baboon Pan looking for food, and she'll go after a multitude of aquatic prey species. So she'll go after frogs and insects and even terrapins. I once saw one swallow a terrapin so big that its neck had the shape of the terrapin for about 2 days before it actually got it down properly. It was quite funny, but I'm sure that saddle-billed stork was not actually that impressed by it at all. But it got kind of stuck in its throat, and there was this sort of massive shell shape in its long neck. Now you can see it's about to kind of go into those reeds, and it wades around and then uses that big beak to kind of stab down into the water. And they are very efficient hunters. If you follow a saddle-billed stork for a morning, you'll find that they consume quite a bit, and that particularly with frogs, they are very, very good at catching frogs, and that beak works wonders when it comes to that. But like I say, it's got to be one of the most beautiful birds we have out here. Unfortunately, their numbers have declined quite a lot. What's happened with them is that because they rely on sort of wetland areas with lots of aquatic life in it, the pollution that is happening in the world and around the world has led to a decline in the habitat of these particular birds, and so their numbers have declined, and you find that there really aren't too many left. I actually read a thing the other day where at one stage in the Kruger National Park, I think it's increased a little bit now, but a few years ago there was actually only 90 breeding pairs left of a saddle-billed stork in the greater Kruger area, which is not very many at all. I mean, that's only 180 birds, so it's really quite crazy. But look at that yellow as well on the top, and that black band. Is that not cool? That is really, really pretty. And then they've got those red knees as well. So Safari Dean, you say this is a cool looking stork and the first time you've seen one. Well, I hope you keep a bird list, Safari Dean, and that you'll be able to add this now to your list. They are probably one of the coolest looking storks that we have. Well, it is the coolest looking stork by far. It's my favorite stork. I love watching them move around, and they often are in pairs. When they do pair together, they will stay together for life, so they are monogamous. Now, this one doesn't seem to have a mate here, which means that it'll probably be looking for one. But look how it uses its beak. Now, let's see. Maybe we're going to get lucky and we're going to be able to see it grabbing something. So what it's doing is it's disturbing the mud, trying to flush whatever could be there. There we go. What did it get? There was something there. I think it got a small morsel. They will also feed off freshwater mollusks, so snails and freshwater mussels as well. They'll go after those from time to time too. But that is about as good a visual of a saddle-billed stork as we're ever going to get. They sometimes can be a bit nervous birds because they're not really that common. But people don't really see them that often, and so they don't like vehicles being very close to them. So the fact that we're able to see this one like this is amazing. And you see how brilliant the white is on the back there? Absolutely beautiful. So,
oh, it's got something.
oh, there we go. It's got a big frog. Look. Oh, sorry, frog. Or platana, it looks like. Can you see that it's got webbed feet, big webbed feet, or a bullfrog? I can't see which one it is, but there we go. It made a kill. Isn't that cool? That's crazy. Now, it does look like a platana with those webbed feet. So, platana is a type of frog that we get here. Now, sorry, Kirst, I got completely distracted by that. Can you repeat the question again? So, Mystic Wolf, you want to know how tall they get? The stork, not the frog. Thanks, Kirst, I got that. It was prior to the frog being maimed. But the stork will get to about 150 centimeters. So 150 centimeters is how many in feet? 1.5 meters would be about the size of... well, about the size of Kirsty, really. Kirsty, how tall are you in feet? I'm waiting for Kirsty to respond to me and how tall she is. You're taller than the stork. Are you sure, Kirsty? The stork is very, very tall. So it's, I mean, that must be close to 4 feet, somewhere around there. I'm not sure. Maybe, Kirsty, if you can do a conversion for us. 5 feet. There we go. So, Kirsty, how tall are you exactly? Let's see if she is actually taller. Are you 5'1", Kirst? Are you very tall? Okay, excellent. We'll say that you're 5'1", just so that you're taller than the stork. But 5 foot is tall for a bird, and so you can see they can handle quite big prey. I've actually seen one grab a catfish once, and I promise you the catfish was as big as the stork's neck, if not longer, and it managed to swallow it. So for some reason they're able to that neck is able to expand, and they're able to get these things down. It really is amazing to watch them hunt. And like I say, if you sit and watch these guys for a while, you'll find they won't just get 1 or 2, they'll catch multiple frogs. But to be able to film it is so special. So we've been very fortunate this morning. That is probably one of the better stork sightings I've seen in a while, and the fact that it's that close and allowing us to get sort of nice close-ups of it is quite special indeed. There we go. So you can see it's not satisfied by one frog. It's now time to find another one. I think there's not going to be too many frogs left in this waterhole by the time this is done. It's not exactly the largest, and we know that little Shongila and Hosanna have all but destroyed the terrapin population in this particular waterhole. I've seen them hunting there quite a few times, so there's really not too many in the way of those around. And so I would imagine that by the time the saddle-billed stork is finished, these will move around from sort of these small pan to small pan to small pan, and once the small pans dry out, then you'll find them in the bigger waterholes like Chitwa Dam or Gari Dam and those areas. But in fact today, I wouldn't be surprised if any of you that watch the dam cam, keep an eye out for this bird during the day today. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it arrives at Djuma Dam, or Gari Dam should I say, and ends up doing a bit of this kind of fishing action at the dam itself. They do kind of go from dam to dam, and it is not too far from here if it just flies northwards. It's just disappearing behind that sort of grass bank at the moment. Now, we're going to try and see if our saddle-billed stork is successful again. And while we do that, I believe Jamie has turned her attention away from the smallest land-based carnivore and is now trying to sneak up on some of our primates.
I'm not sure how well my sneaking up on anything is going this morning. I can't believe that where I found dwarf mongoose every day, they've been my saving grace over the last few days. I now cannot find one, but I did find a troop of monkeys, and I'm not sure that sneaking up on them is going to work terribly well, so Ferg and I have tried a different approach of just sitting down. Sitting down in the sun, basking, and waiting for the monkeys to show themselves again. Of course, they've now all vanished. Completely. Okay, let's try and sneak up a little bit further on them. I don't think it's going to work though, unfortunately. I think they're going to run as soon as we get a bit closer. That's okay, there'll be plenty of things at the dam to keep us occupied. There goes one. Ooh. Is it going to stay out in the open long enough for us, Ferg? There's another one coming behind it. Hey, little ones. There we go. Wandering along. Of course, primates being one of the few animals that distinguish between male and female, I could probably get closer than Ferg could. They'll see me as less of a threat. The irritating thing about that is because I have no intention of habituating these monkeys at all. That is not something that I want to do. We don't want them to become a pest around the camp, to get used to people and to not be afraid of us, because primates, monkeys, baboons, they tend to be the ones that cause the most bother in camps. But it's very frustrating when you as a girl, there's the one with the injured foot. I'm not sure what's wrong with its back left foot, but there is something wrong with that monkey's back left foot. I saw it running earlier, and it was running on 3 legs instead of 4. Shame, buddy. Almost seems to drag. Looks very swollen. It's definitely moving slower than the others. That kind of injury for a monkey is not ideal at all. But it's probably still able to climb, still able to escape. But it does make it a lot slower. And a lot more vulnerable to birds of prey and leopards and other cat species, smaller cat species. But having an eagle-eyed family around it will probably be hugely helpful. Shame, you can see its reluctance to walk forward or to jump forward any further. I wonder what's wrong with it. I was talking about shouting at monkeys in camp. As a girl, you go and you shout and you wave things at them and they just ignore you. And in certain places where they're very habituated, they actually hiss at you and bare their teeth. Oh, shame. Limpy monkey. But as soon as a man comes out and starts shouting at them and throwing something at them, then immediately they scatter. It's the one of the few species out here that distinguishes between men and women. It's one of the few situations, because the rest of the animals really don't care. They're not bothered at all, provided you're not screaming in a high-pitched voice, an elephant or something. They don't really notice the difference between women and men. And monkeys do. Monkeys are horrible like that. They're not afraid of us at all. Apparently, it's a big thing when you're working with chimps. In terms of your body language and whether or not you're a man or a woman, which chimps you can actually spend time with and which ones see you as a threat, particularly if you're a man. Interesting. Still trying to sneak up on these monkeys. I wish I could find a dwarf mongoose. James, however, has been occupied with a drama all of his own.
I am completely occupied with this big drama, so occupied that I failed to turn off the sound in the tent, so now you will hear me echoing, but I will turn it off now. There we go. An amazing drama unfolding here. Very unpleasant day for the termites. Wonderful day if you happen to be the ants that have discovered an enormous food source. And why is it, do you suppose? Well, we know why it is. That this is not a traumatic thing for us to watch. It's simply fascinating. And yet if we watch the lion snuff the life out of a buffalo, or a crocodile grabbing a wildebeest, it just is that much more traumatic to us as human beings. Now we have a question from a fascinating Twitter handle here that I don't think is related to me, but Mrs. Hendry. Good day to you, if you are related to me in some way. Hello. You say, I've forgotten the question now. What's the question? Oh, do they signal for help, the termites? I'm not sure if the termites signal for help. I don't think so. You know, they pass messages to each other through pheromones, through their saliva. So I'm not sure that they're able to pass sort of pheromones through the air that would signal for the soldiers to come, but you can see that the soldiers have not arrived at all, and the workers are just being carried off. Very traumatic indeed. And you may also notice that it is now a very brightly lit scene that we have here. Craig has managed to magic some more light into the situation, and you can see that it is really an astounding amount of activity going on here. Just hundreds of ants per termite, and carrying them away. I don't think that their nest is where I thought it was. They seem to be dragging them down Ah, you keep there, Craig. I will see if I can go around the other side of you and find the ant nest. Quib, you're wondering if these red ants would be able to hunt an elephant. No, they wouldn't be able to hunt an elephant. An elephant is substantially larger than a termite, of course, and no, they wouldn't be able. No number of red ants, I don't think, could overcome an elephant. But for these chaps, well, absolutely. Now, I'm wondering to myself, I'm not blocking the light there, am I, Craig? No. Not yet. If the red ant nest isn't underneath here. Yes, it is. Look, there it is. Can you see it there? I think it's in here. I think they're dragging the termites just where I'm pointing with this piece. Yes, they are. They're taking them underground there. See where I'm pointing there? There. Yeah. There we go. The termites are disappearing down underground, attacked by their vicious assailants. And there seem to be two different, you know what, there are actually two different kinds of ants there now. Sorry. One with a much bigger head than the other, I think. It's really difficult to get in amongst this lot. Now, let me move this leaf. Abby, you say, could the termites turn it around and fend these ants off? Not without the arrival of a substantial number of soldiers. What I suspect has happened is that the termites have sealed off their mound. They've sealed off access to where they live, which is probably subterranean somewhere here. And I suspect they have sacrificed or decided that they are not going to try and save the hapless ones that were caught outside. And I think that's why you'll find there are no soldiers here. It really is astounding. Well, a pack of animals, what an interesting question you've asked. You said, are termites more advanced than ants? What does that mean, though? And I know exactly what you mean by the question, but the question is not in fact valid. And I'll tell you why it's not valid. You're thinking basically of evolution in terms of a... I've also got a little stick insect here. You're thinking of evolution in terms of a ladder, at which you find us at the pinnacle and something like an amoeba at the base, I think. And we think of unicellular organisms as the most primitive types of life, and then us at the pinnacle of the ladder, you know, the ultimate sort of expression of evolutionary skill, if you like. That's the wrong word, but I'm going to use it for now. And that's not how you need to look at it. You need to look at it from the point of view that everything has evolved to the point that it needs to. So to call one more advanced than the other in this case would be incorrect. They are both as advanced as they need to be for their particular space in evolutionary time. Remember, any species that is alive today has come through or is massively successful. It is thousands of times more successful than countless of other species that have gone extinct, and we know in much shorter spaces of time, and countless other designs of animals that have not survived because they just are not sufficiently adapted. And every single one of these animals that you find alive today is specifically designed to fill a certain ecological niche. And that's what they're doing. And so to say that one is more advanced than the other is the incorrect way to think of it. We need to think of it as a great big pool of ecological niches into which different species fit. And although we think of ourselves as the pinnacle of evolution because we're cleverer, we think we're cleverer, and we are more technologically advanced, we are simply fulfilling an ecological niche that was open. And yes, we may be have gone beyond that now. We've kind of maybe superseding our biological evolution with technology. But in terms of these things, no, they're both as advanced as each other. Now, Mita, age 8, you say, do I think the termites are screaming right now? Well, they can't scream, of course, Mita, but it is a sad day for them, isn't it? I don't really like to watch something like this. It makes me feel a little bit sad. Right, I believe that Jamie Patterson has finally found the object of her affection.
I have found the object of my affection. How lucky am I? Finally, it's taken us a couple of hours. We finally found at least one dwarf mongoose, and I assume where there's one, there are many, hiding somewhere all around me, quite possibly right next to me, actually, with this termite mound here. Hello. So I'm sitting, I would say probably about 4 meters away from this dwarf mongoose. Obviously sitting is the way to go. If I stand up, I'm going to look very threatening and imposing. It's about the only creature I can say that to. When I stand up, I look threatening and imposing. Everything else isn't at all threatened by me or imposed by me. Oh. Bye. PC Justin, you want to know if all mongoose are gregarious? Nope. Dwarf mongoose and banded mongoose are our 2 gregarious species, our 2 sociable species, and the 2 that live together in family groups. Otherwise, the other species of mongoose that we see out here, the nocturnal white-tailed, they're solitary unless they have young with them. The slender mongoose, also solitary unless it has young with them. And I sometimes wonder if that's not one of the reasons why slender mongoose are very, very skittish and very seldom seen, whereas dwarf mongoose get used to us quite quickly. I don't know if it's just because they feel slightly safer in a group, just like human beings. Well, bye then, again. I'm still here. And then the water mongoose as well. Also a solitary creature. Also a creature that lives all by itself. So it's the banded and the dwarf mongoose that are the sociable ones. And their family connections are very, very strong, to the point that, and I know we speak about this a lot, but the fact that the alpha pair is the one that breeds, and yet the whole family is dedicated to looking after the offspring. I like animals that do that. I think it's because it's very relatable to us as human beings. The fact that there is that degree of selflessness within certain animal societies, I think that we all appreciate, and we recognize a little bit of in theory, recognize a little bit of ourselves in that. Come on. Apparently 4 meters is too close. We're going to have to sit patiently and wait for the mongoose to get used to the idea of us. However, Tristan, I believe, is probably at Chitwa Dam. He's looking at those gorgeous goslings.
We are, Jamie, well done. 10 points for knowing where the goslings are, and they are being very cute this morning. They've just woken up, so there was lots of stretching and flapping of tiny little wings, and hopefully they'll do it again, because it is probably one of the cutest things to see a little baby gosling go back up, and there we go. Is he trying to catch an insect? They are so cute, and you'll find that they go back on their legs and then they try flutter these tiny wings, and it is all very, very cute. They almost look like penguins when they do it. Now, they are just sort of moving on the edge of the dam, and they've obviously enjoyed a bit of sunshine, and now it's time to move around. Mom has come out of the water. There she is. Or Dad. It's difficult to say which one is which. Oh, lovely. Went to the toilet too. Now, they're just moving around. You can see it's just talking to them. Right, children, come on. It's a bit difficult with the light where we are at the moment. Unfortunately, the light is shining directly into our eyes, but are they not the cutest little things? Little balls of fluff that are bouncing around. And it's amazing how quickly they grow. So if you just remember from about a week ago when we first saw them, they were about half the size of what they are now. And they've already sort of doubled in size and weight, and their feathers. Look at it, look. Isn't that cool when they stretch? Oh, it's all too much. Stretching was too much. It's now time to sit down. And there's a blacksmith lapwing running into frame. So they're not nearly as cute as the little goslings, especially when they stretch. It's amazing to see how small their little wings are still. Very, very cute. Well done for raising your little baby so far. It can't be easy at all with all the predators around Chitwa Dam, from the fish eagles to the young marshal eagles to crocodiles, and catfish will even go after these. They must just be a really tough time to raise little goslings to adulthood. Now, I can't remember how many we started with. I think it was 7. Is that how many we started with? And we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I can see. So we've unfortunately lost 2 of them. But that is not a bad ratio considering how many predators there actually are in this area. We started with 64, James Henry. Well, James, I think you may need to go back to school to learn how to count in terms of these goslings. There was most definitely never 64 of them, but maybe in your dreams or in a fantasy land, which we know James likes to live in. But I actually think my counting is even worse. So James, I'll join you in school lessons, because I think there are 6. Batman says 8. Well, Batman, I don't know. I'm sure 7. Jamie will know, because Jamie had them during the TV shows the day after I found them, and I'm sure we counted 7. So Jamie is probably the best one to ask. But there are actually 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there are 6. 8. So there are 8. Okay, well done, Batman. I take it back. You were paying attention, which is good. So we've got 6, which means we still are left with 2 missing. Between my maths, James's maths, and the rest of us, it's just been an absolute hash at figuring out how many of these little ones are left. But they are super cute either way. It doesn't really matter. You can see, look how they filter feed through the algae. So they follow their mom and they watch. And mom would probably go in a little bit deeper, but because she's got her little ones with her, she's probably trying to just show them that it's not safe to go too deep, and wants to keep them right on the shore, on the fringes, where a crocodile or a fish is not going to be able to get to them. Now, talking of crocodiles, Vlad the Impaler is sitting out on its bank, absorbing some sunshine, much like our monitor lizard. You can see him shining in the background there. There we go. Good morning, Vlad. Now, Vlad has obviously had quite a cold night, so much like our monitor lizard, is now going to spend some time basking in the sun and warming up. And it's amazing how warm it's gotten all of a sudden. Now that sun's up a little bit, it's got quite a bite to it. And so for a reptile, a cold-blooded reptile, that is exactly what is needed to be able to then get going and start hunting this afternoon again. And you'll find he'll spend probably most of the day there, and will only then start hunting in the late afternoon, which is quite typical of these crocodiles. But once again, Chitwa Dam is just a hive of activity. There's swallows, there's the crocodiles, there were a few waterbuck around at one point, the goslings, and it's just such a pretty place to come in the mornings and just spend a bit of time and kind of take in the sounds of nature as well as the sort of sights. And particularly now with the sun kind of hitting our backs, just to be still for a little bit is quite nice. Oh, there's a fish eagle as well. Well spotted, Seb. So our fish eagle is also just taking it easy. Now, I did get an update. It is a very broken update. I could not hear exactly what the guys were saying, but all I got was that Thandi Tamba and the cubs for Karula, which would be Hosanna and Shongile, as well as a Birmingham male, are all involved in some sort of interaction with a carcass. So I don't know where they all are or if it is all together, but it sounds quite interesting. I'm going to try and see if I can't get better radio comms and find out exactly, but it sounds like somewhere on Little Gowrie, which would explain our hyenas as well. So maybe they were involved in the whole mix at some point as well, and why they've all got big sort of full bellies. But it'll be interesting if Thandi Tamba, Shongile and Hosanna are indeed in the same place. It'll be quite a turnout for the books, and hopefully everybody will be fine, given that there is a Birmingham male somewhere, and I know he's involved somehow stealing the carcass or something like that. So I'm going to try to get a better update shortly when I get out of Chitwa Dam, because where we are now is so low that all I get is every second word. So maybe I've confused the whole thing, but we're going to try and see. Hopefully it's all going to be okay and everybody is safe and sound. Nobody seemed too perturbed about safety of any of the cubs or anything like that, so I think everybody is fine. It's just a case of actually just finding out exactly what the story is. Right, I think it's time to carry on. Let's go and see what else we can find. What's that coming over the dam wall there, Seb?
Impalas.
impalas. Right, let's go see what we can find. There's some impalas coming down to enjoy Chitwa Dam as well. And so while they come down, let's go back to James Henry, who hopefully has stopped watching the massacre and is now gone to something a little bit happier.
Well, not really. We're now looking at the same battle in greater detail, but I think we may have confused the issue. Let's go back to the microscope. Here we have the ants and 2 dead termites that they have killed, murderous creatures, and I was kind of hoping to see what they would do, but I think we've confused them by removing them from where they live, and I think we're going to have to return them back before they will actually pick up the dead termites. But you can see those termites are done for. And you can see the different sizes there between the ants and the termites. Oh, and one of them still sort of turning or moving slightly. But you can see the ants rushing around, very confused, I think, as to where they are. Oh, that is a soldier, actually. That's interesting. That's a soldier. That's a minor soldier. Oh, dear. Oh, caught an ant. Bit it. And now the ant's bitten it again. And they've all rallied around to kill it again. They'll be injecting it probably with formic acid. And that will be sufficient to kill the termite. And I wonder if that ant there isn't trying to take off its pincer. I feel absolutely no sympathy for the ant at all. I feel dreadful for the termite. I've yet to see a situation like this where the termites don't lose. You can see the biting mouth parts on the ants there, and I don't know what kind of ants these are. See, it's trying to bite off the pincer there, the dangerous part. Or certainly disable the muscle. How does it know to do that? It doesn't even have a brain. Absolutely astounding. They look a little bit like those trap jaw ants, but I don't think they are. Look at this. The termite is not yet dead, and the ant is so fast that it backs away every time the termite's pincers close. It's too fast to be caught. Here comes another ant. Look at that. Look how it backs out the way. This is absolutely astounding. Colleen, you're wondering about fire ants and if we get those here. I don't think we get the same kind of fire ants that you have. I think you get them in North America, correct? No, I don't think they're the same. I mean, we get red ants that have the same kind of effect. This is absolutely amazing. And it's almost like that one chap was completely occupied now. He's not worried about finding his way home. He's occupied with making sure that this termite is dead. And look at how he prods it. See how he's prodding it? Almost taunting the termite to try and bite him. Now he's grabbed it by the antenna. Oh, this is vicious. Let me try and get a little bit closer in. Sorry about this, everybody. Hello, Stanley, question mark. You say, you hear that they do not have a brain. Well, that's what I said, yeah. They don't. I mean, they've got a very rudimentary brain. They've got a rudimentary collection of neurons that certainly from a human point of view wouldn't come close to qualifying as a brain. I mean, you and I would know, for example, with a snake, you and I know the business end of a snake from the other end of a snake. But we are quite well educated. How on earth does an ant know the dangerous end of a termite from the other? And how is it able to get out of the way when the termite snatches at it, especially as it is blind? It cannot see properly. The termite I see now has had 2 of its legs removed. If you look at the front of the termite, it's only got 4 legs. It's got 2 stumps where its front legs were. I mean, this is traumatic. This is like watching a buffalo die at the hands of some lions. It's just not quite dead and it won't go. Dreadfully sad. I'm sure all of you are in tears. If you are a sensitive viewer, I'm very sorry. Michael, I wouldn't know, but I would say about 3 times. You say, how much more does the termite weigh compared with the ant? It looks to me like that ant is about 1/3 the size of the termite. And all the other ants are falling about the place. It's almost like they're drunk with power. Let's move in there. Look at that enormous termite there. That one seems to be dead. It's just blowing a bit in the wind. Oh, but our one just won't let go of its clutch on life. Sid, you say, why has the abdomen of the termite changed colour? I don't think it has, Sid. I think it's full of dirt. I think it was caught with a gut full of sand, basically, or of rotting vegetation when it was set upon by the ants. And I think it's been caught now. It's not dead. Look, it's trying to spit out a piece of stone. Oh, no. I mean, this is really quite dreadful to watch. I mean, that termite could not possibly be having a worse day. It's got 2 of its legs chopped off. It's now being attacked by an ant from the front. It's totally defenseless to do anything. The ant is almost taunting it. I was just going to kind of leave it to die. Taunting it by putting its leg on the pincer. Well, I feel quite traumatized by this. I think I'm going to have to put them back. Oh, the termite's coming back alive. And Hillbilly, you say yes. Oh, the horror. Ugh. It is amazing how if we were watching a buffalo doing this, or dying at the hands of some predators, we'd have all sorts of complaints about how it was too traumatic and why are we always just showing death. And it's really difficult for some people to watch, and yet this humble termite has passed, still passing into oblivion without so much as a bye or leave. Let's go across to Jamie, see if she's feeling more cheerful than I am.
I guess I'm feeling more cheerful. I wasn't aware that James was so very, very sad. Perhaps it was the dramatic turn of events that the termite and ant saga took. But I've given up on my dwarf mongoose because it really honestly just wasn't working. It was a disaster from start to finish, and the one dwarf mongoose that we did have disappeared, and I can't even begin to tell you where the rest of them are. Luckily for me, we've got an animal that is far more habituated than our dwarf mongoose in the form of this Niala Ball that is being so very obliging. Beautiful, fully grown male. And we've often talked about the fact that Nyala are the antelope that habituate probably the fastest to people. They also spend most of their time hanging out around camp gardens. There's lots of nice fresh green grass there. There's invariably a leaky pipe somewhere that provides nice clean water, nice green grass. It's a place to be. And that means that they get very accustomed to people walking by them. I'm just trying to work out, because I actually want to come past this gentleman. I'm just trying to work out, I don't want him to feel trapped in the fence, although he could easily, very, very easily, leap over this fence and into the camp if he wanted to. And he seems to be quite chilled with us. I wonder what would happen We just walk a little bit along this way. Hello, my boy. The trick is not to focus your attention on them. So if you don't look like you're looking at them, you don't look like you're actually paying any attention to them, then because they're geared to pick up facial expressions, they're geared towards looking just like human beings, they're geared to read body language. And when a predator focuses on them, and you look at them and walks, if I were to look at him and walk straight towards him, then he would start to get nervous. If I were to duck down and creep towards him, I think he might think I was a bit insane, but he also might be a bit nervous. So the trick is actually just to walk as though you're not too bothered by their presence, and actually really you just want to be elsewhere. I once had an Niala try and lick my toes while I was sleeping next to a swimming pool. And the end result is that you can get closer and closer and closer and closer. And Ferg, if you follow my route, I actually think you'll be fine. If you come along towards the buffalo thorn, I think you'll be quite okay. And look, see how much closer we are? And it actually gives you a sense of scale. It's okay, boy. Gives you a sense of scale as to just how large these antelope really are. Because as Ferg is walking towards me, the antelope's looking at him, but he's not too nervous. And as long as we don't disappear behind the trees, I think he should be fine. Hey, boy. Cool, huh? That you can get closer and closer. That sort of connection to a wild animal is very special. Kirsty says habituation 101. Yes, well, habituation of the dwarf mongoose didn't work. Habituation of the wildebeest didn't work. The dwarf mongoose, though, I'd need to spend more time with. I'd need to have more time on my hands. Now he's going to turn and finish his food. See? That's how relaxed he is with how close we are. And always it's better to let the animal come to you, but if you are approaching them, it's nice to just loop around them. Marco, I'm not sure about the answer to that. You want to know if a lone Niala Ball would habituate faster than perhaps a herd of them, or a Niala Ball that's traveling with a group of females. I'm honestly not too sure about that. I'm not sure that there would be a difference. I find that animals in groups tend to be slightly braver than animals all by themselves, like with that dwarf mongoose earlier. I think that dwarf mongoose was quite far away from the rest of his family, and therefore wasn't feeling particularly courageous. The advantage of numbers is always a good thing. We see the same with the hyena cubs, where there's one moving forward, the other one will be more likely to become bolder and bolder. Our Niala Ball hasn't thought much of our habituation efforts, and in fact looks as though he would quite like to go and hop into Voyatella camp. Meantime, Tristan, I believe, is trying to habituate vultures.
Well, maybe not habituate them, but we are certainly watching them. They seem very relaxed with things at the moment. And so those are the vultures that are involved and embroiled in the saga that is what's playing out on Little Gowrie, I'm afraid. So they're just within touching distance, but we cannot see any of the cats. Now, I do know exactly what's happened. So we have Hosana, Shongile, Tamba, Tandi, all in the same area. So Hosana and Shongile were around. Tandi killed a kudu, and then one of the Birminghams came in and chased Tandi off and chased Tamba off, and then one of the Krula's cubs went up into a tree. I don't know if it's Shongile or Hosana is up in the tree, and the other one ran away. So all of them are safe and sound. The Birmingham is now eating the kudu, and the vultures are just watching everything happening. But we have two species of vulture there, and particularly the one on the left. Maybe, just maybe, a lot of you would not have got this on your bird list, but the one on the left is a different vulture to one we see very often. In fact, they're quite uncommon in this area. That is called a white-headed vulture. Now, the white-headed vulture is one that is always there when there is fresh meat. You'll very seldom find them on sort of old carcasses, and you can see why it's called a white-headed vulture, because it's got that big, bright white head. And I'm going to show you a better picture now, because the way that it's sitting is not very nice. Then the other vultures on the right-hand side and at the bottom of the tree are all the normal white-backed vultures that we see in this area. Now, let me just try and find it in my book. There we go. Alright, so this is the white-headed. This is the one that I was talking about, and like I say, we don't actually that often see them. So here it is here, and you can see it's got that very, very, very bright white head, and then those white feathers on the tail area. And they're a big bulky vulture. You can see they've got a big bulky beak, and they're ones that come in and eat massive amounts of food and meat and big chunks of it up front. So they're normally one of the first ones to arrive, and if them and the lappet-faced vultures are around, they dominate the carcass completely. They're much bigger, they're much heavier birds, and they've got those big beaks that are able to really get into that carcass and open the carcass up for the rest of them. So they're not one that we see that often, and you generally only see these guys when there is a big carcass. So I would imagine that Tundi must have pulled down quite a large kudu for one of these to be around, which is quite cool. So nice to see, not one that we see every day. Unfortunately, they have sort of come in and out, but they're not ones that are very common. Now, the hooded vulture at the bottom here, I would suspect is also somewhere around there. I can see lots of vultures there that we just can't get on camera, but I would imagine these guys are around, and you can see the difference between their beak. And so with the vultures here, we have vultures that are useful for different sort of uses at the carcass. So the white-headed is a big sort of meat eater and will open thick skin with a heavy set beak. But these guys, you can see a much smaller beak, and they will come in when everybody else is finished. So they're the last ones to feed. But with that beak, it's almost like a scalpel. They are able to clean off even the smallest little bits of meat and skin off of the carcass and make sure that they're able to actually get every last scrap. And they clean the bones to the point where the bones almost look white. So between the vultures, they've all got their own sort of separate use, and they all can get food even off a sort of carcass that looks completely deplete from our point of view. So they are around. And then the other one that we've got, which way am I going now? There we go, is this white-backed vulture. So this is the most common vulture that we see in this area. They're all over the place and are generally the ones that we find at the carcasses first before any of the others, just because of the numbers of them. And they're quite easy to recognize. They've got that sort of dark eye, dark face, and then they've got this little white back over there that gives them their name. And then the white-headed vulture has the same wingspan as the white-backed at 2.3 meters, so very, very big. Now, if we think about the lappet-faced vulture, which is the one on top, which is the biggest of our vultures and the baddest of our vultures, and you can even see they've got that kind of angry look about them, and they really are massive birds. Their wingspan is 2.8 meters. That's almost 3 meters long. It is a huge bird, and they all weigh close to 9 kilograms. Now, if you think about birds, they are generally very, very light animals, and they have to be because they have to fly. So to weigh 9 kilograms or 8.5 kilograms and have a wingspan of 2.8 meters is a massive, massive, massive bird. And you can see why they dominate the carcasses. Because of their size and their bulk, they're able to kind of push everybody else off. And those are pretty much the vultures that we see on a fairly regular basis here in the Sabi Sands. There is one other that does occur here, or two actually, that have been seen but are very, 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 very rare. And both of them are, so you've got the Cape vulture, which is this one on top. And you can see the Cape vulture is almost identical to the white-backed vulture and very difficult to tell apart. The only way that you can tell is by this eye. You see there's a yellow eye. Now the white-backed vulture has a dark eye. Alright, so these Cape vultures are very, very, very uncommon, but we do see them here from time to time. So they are seen, and I actually have seen here in the Sabi Sands, when we had a dead elephant once, there was quite a few of these guys. And then the other one that we will see, well, we won't see, but it would be amazing to see and was seen fairly recently, is this guy. Now this is called an Egyptian vulture, and they're quite crazy looking birds. But one of these was seen very recently, not too far north of the Sabi Sands in the Greater Kruger National Park. But there's only a few records for this, so that would be an amazing bird to see here. But maybe one day, you never know. Right, there we go. That's our vultures. So it's good news that the leopards are all safe, that we got to see some vultures, and hopefully we'll find some of these leopards will come over to Chitwa in the afternoon. And while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and see what she's up to and whether or not she's managed to habituate something different.
No, I haven't, and nor has Jamie, but Ronald has. There is Ronald, and he's got some wildebeest friends, and one of them came right past him and paid no attention at all. And unfortunately, Ronald is immobile today, so I can't actually move him. Well, this is quite fun, isn't it? This is marvellous that we've got this wildebeest action going on here. I wish I could move him. There, look. Hooray. Ronald finally performs after goodness knows how long. That is brilliant. The wildebeest herd come down to drink. The one on the left don't look so good. Looking a bit hippie. Oh, one on the right coming in the migration. This is the best. Now, if I was to move Ronald, which I can't, these things would almost certainly scatter to the wind at an enormous panicked speed. But now they're happy to sit in his company, and he obviously doesn't smell too much like a human being at the moment. Don't kick him over. There we are. Oh, oh. That was close. Oh, this is just beautiful. Look how quickly they drink. That couldn't have been more than sort of 30 seconds of sucking up the water. This one's been at it slightly longer. I suppose it isn't very hot, of course, so they don't have to worry too much. And you'll also notice perhaps how they came straight into the water to drink. They know that there are no crocodiles here. They don't have any fear of crocodiles in this waterhole, which of course is very dangerous, because it's not to say there will never be a crocodile in here. Yes. Are you enjoying your drink? Oh, I just think this is magic. There he goes. Goodbye. Have a nice day. That is wonderful. Alright, well, we'll keep an eye on Ronald and see if something else doesn't come down to have a drink. In the meantime, we want to do an experiment. Halfway through, or during the TV shows, our most recent TV shows, what we did was we put an antlion under the microscope, and then we put it in the sand. We watched it dig itself in. And Craig said to me, quite unaware that we had done this, he said, wouldn't it be fun to watch it actually dig its pit? And I said, well, yes, I think it probably would be quite fun to let it dig its pit under the microscope. So that's what we're going to do now. There is the antlion. There it is. I've warmed it up. I've left it in the sun. Okay, come back to me, and now we're going to put it in the sand. Here's the sand that Craig has carefully sifted all of the sort of big bits out of. And what I'm going to do, let me just lift this up a bit. And what I'd quite like to do is just see if we can't leave him digging there, and see if we can't get a picture of an antlion actually digging its pit. Right, well, there it is. Now, let's watch and see what happens. He'll almost certainly dig himself under the ground while we're watching, but whether he'll dig his pit, I don't know. Come on. There you are. Keep digging. Yeah, that's it. No, I don't know how long it takes him to dig the pit. I always thought it took about 10 minutes only. But let's see. What we'll do is we'll let him get under the sand, and then if there are any further developments, we'll come back to him quickly. I'll keep watching it. So let's just move him to the center. Now he's in the center. Now let's see if he starts to dig himself a pit, or if he's just going to hide there. If he realizes that he's in some kind of false situation, if you like. Anyway, we'll see. We'll keep watching that for the rest of the drive. I'm not sure how long that's going to last. I'm just going to move him. What I want to do is just get him slightly further away from the lens of the microscope, so that we have not quite as close a view, because I think what that will allow is just probably a greater chance of us actually watching him dig, but I'm not sure. Nancy, you say that was cool. It was very cool, isn't it? I think it's amazing. This microscope is an absolute revelation to us, and I think to many of you, and many of you have written to me and said, what is the brand of the microscope? Can I get one? And obviously I'm not allowed to say the brand here, but if you write to me, I'll tell you what it is. And I think Siberia Zumi Marco has bought himself one, and I don't know if he's had any great results yet, but they're not very expensive. Alright, he's now perfectly situated underneath the microscope, and we'll just leave him there for the rest of the drive and see if he doesn't actually dig himself a pit. Marvellous, good. And then I had something else I wanted to show you under the microscope, but I now can't do that, of course, because we have to leave that one there. In the meantime, let us go across to Jamie. She is walking about. I'm going to draw another map.
I'm walking about. I'm walking on one of my absolute favourite walking routes, which is the path around the lodge and underneath the large jackalberry trees. My favourite walking route, however, took me straight smack bang into an elephant, so I'm now walking back along my favourite walking route. Unfortunately, there was an elephant standing right there, and there was really no way for Ferg and myself to safely get around them. There we go. Thank you, Potato Bush. So Ferg and myself are back on our walking trail. And the wonderful thing about this particular path that leads between the Vuyatela Dam and the Gallagher Pan is that the animals have used it so regularly, it is literally like a hiking trail. You can follow it like a hiking trail. It's perfect. And of course, animals will take the path with the least line of resistance, which means that for us, it creates this perfect place for Ferg with his massive antenna sticking out of his back. Creates this perfect spot for him to walk along. He doesn't have to duck all that often. It really is quite a lovely route. Now, just speaking of elephants and being on foot, I know lots of you were, or are, quite concerned about Herbie. Don't worry, he's just feeling a little bit under the weather, and we figured there's no point in him trying to force himself to walk when he doesn't feel well. So I will pass on all of your well wishes to him. He's absolutely fine. He'll be absolutely fine. He just needed a little bit of a break. So that's where Herbie is. Nothing serious. He's resting. So which is one of the reasons why, as nice as that elephant sighting might have been, if they decided to come towards us, we might have had a slight issue. Because Fergus and I were sort of in a tambuti thicket with nowhere really to go. So we abandoned the idea of that elephant sighting for now, and we'll carry on this beautiful walking trail. See, look at these lovely jackalberry trees. I almost want to sit here and spend the rest of the day here. Although I imagine that the guests with their rooms overlooking this particular spot might not appreciate my presence. In fact, I think they'd probably think it was quite creepy. So scrap that idea. Right, we're going to continue to extricate ourselves from the surprise elephants that were in front of us. In the meantime, Tristan has got less surprising elephants who are at Chitwa.
We do indeed. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? A whole big herd that is coming to, well, they were at the water. Now, for some reason, they ran away. Maybe they caught sight of Vlad's beady eye watching them from the bank, and they've now started to move away from the water and up into the shady areas. But isn't that beautiful? Lots of little young ones. Very cool. So we were trying to just see if we couldn't have one last look for those leopards, but alas, there was nothing. So I thought we'd come back past Chitwa Dam, and surprise, surprise, there we go. And there's a tiny baby. You see it there, Seb, in front. It's just being shielded by everybody, but there's a tiny little one in the shade. More to the left, right to the front. There we go. You see its little trunk in amongst all of them? Hello, little one. Isn't that cool? There it is. Now, it's being protected by all of its siblings. You see how it's being pushed into the middle? So as the herd moves, this is what happens. But there's one female in particular that seems to be very grumpy this morning. She's not happy at all. And even with us from a long way away, she keeps flaring her ears and sort of posturing at us, which is very strange. I wonder where they've come from. Maybe they bumped into somebody around Chitwa Lodge, and that's why they're a bit flustered. But she's not the female in front. It's the ones at the back that are kind of giving us their attitude at this stage. So if you have a look on the right, there you go, there's one of them. So it's this female and the other one to the left. You see, look at them, how they already got their heads up, ears are out, which is quite strange. This is not sort of behavior that we see from the females very often in this area. Normally the females here are very relaxed with us, but these two in particular seem to be having a bit of a iffy moment, so hopefully they will calm down. I wonder if maybe they haven't bumped into something this morning. Maybe they bumped into that Birmingham mail, or like I say, some of the people in the camp at Chitwa, and that's why they're getting a little bit upset. Nice with that one that's dust bathing. Yes, rather dust bathed. Don't worry about us. We're not going to do anything to you and your herd, I promise. Now, if we just sit tight for a little bit, I'm sure they will slowly but surely start coming towards us. You can actually see a bit of the heat haze in the background there. You see how the trees in the back almost look like they're shimmering? And that's because it has gotten very warm all of a sudden. And so it's starting to kind of get that haze developing in the background. Oh, hello. A little bit of interaction. So you'll often find with elephants, they do sort of smell each other like that. And that's their way of greeting. It's almost, we were talking about it the other day, almost like a handshake where they'll put their trunks together in each other's mouths and they'll kind of just scent one another, and they know, okay, that's part of my herd. I don't have to worry too much. It seems like they're going to just come past us, which is quite nice. Seb, I might just reposition ourselves so that we're on the better side of the light. Although, hold on, I just want to see how this female reacts, because there's this one that is full of nonsense in front of us. That is, look at her already, how she's posturing at us. Yeah, so she's already got her head up. And she's probably trying to protect all of the others. But she really is being unnecessarily sort of showing aggressive signs for no reason. We're sitting dead still, we're not moving. And for some reason, she's just not happy about all the movement around her. And maybe it's the waterbuck. I think a male waterbuck's about to get chased as well. There the male waterbuck goes. But I have a funny feeling they've had some sort of issue this morning. Maybe they've bumped into a predator of some sort, or there's been a big bull harassing them. There's something along those lines that makes them a little bit upset. You can see she's actually leaking from her temporal glands as well, which as we know is a sign and an indication of emotion. So it's potentially she's upset about something, and now we're just getting the sort of tail end of it. And so this is what happens. Sometimes elephants have had a bad day, and then you come along and they get a little bit grumpy with you. So you've got to just kind of sit still and just let them realize that you're not in any way trying to hurt them or mess around with them. And the herd is actually now all around us. It's really quite cool. So hopefully these two females decide just to be good girls and just to come past without any nonsense. Shame the waterbuck is now getting... Okay, girls, it's fine. Everything is okay. No. Now you see the young ones, how they imitate the adults. Look at how their ears are all out as well. So they watch the adults and they have the exact same posture. You see that all throughout the herd. So from the big adults to the smaller ones, they're all doing the exact same movement. So they watch one another and they learn from their moms and how to behave and how to deal with potential threat. What's interesting also is the waterbuck is walking right past Vlad. So look at that. The waterbuck stopping and looking at Vlad now. There we go. So the waterbuck knows that on land, that crocodile is no threat. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the elephants, because the elephants are going straight towards that now as well. But I think Vlad might know that an elephant is not something to play around with, and we'll probably see him ducking into the water if they go a bit closer. But look, they're smelling him. You can see she knows there's something dangerous there. Isn't this cool? That is very cool. And look, she gets herself between the baby and the crocodile and then carries on. So they've realized that that crocodile on land is not something they have to worry about, but she makes sure her baby is safe and then goes round to be able to drink. Very, very cool. That's maybe why they're all so nervous. So they're just seeing potential threat everywhere, and luckily for us, they were actually very well behaved and didn't give us one little bit of drama. So that was cool. I'm glad that everybody decided to behave themselves coming past, because at one point there I thought we might have a bit of an issue with the one female. She definitely wasn't exactly that thrilled with us being where we were. See the hippo popping out in the background as well, between them. It's all happening at Chitwa. There's so many different species, it's sometimes difficult to know where you want to look. You've got hippos, there's elephants, there's the crocodile, the waterbuck, and the kind of interaction amongst them all. And it's difficult to know where to actually point your lens. So hopefully everything will kind of settle down a bit and we can catch a breath. Very, very cool. Now we've got a whole bunch of herons coming in from above as well. That's quite cool. There's a whole bunch of grey herons in the sky above us. They look like grey herons. Sorry, Seb, I know it's quite tough there. They're coming over the tree. There we go. There we go. Well done, Seb. That's very cool. Are they grey herons? Yes, they are. Interesting, though, the one heron's got its neck out, which is very seldom for herons to fly like that. That's why I had to kind of second guess myself. Herons will typically fly with their neck in, almost in sort of an S shape, and so the one's got its neck out, and I wonder if it's because there's another pair approaching, and this is a kind of display to one another. But there we go. So these are grey herons that are busy flying away. Isn't that amazing? Well done, Seb. That's very good. It is not easy to keep a bird in shot like that while it flies. Very, very cool. Against that bright blue sky. And that's typical skies of the winter months. Get these kind of deep blues. And that's a black-headed heron. That's not a grey heron. Well done, Seb. That was very good. Well done. That's not easy at all. So it was actually a black-headed heron. So for those of you that keep your bird lists, so one of those was a black-headed heron and the other one... And now the fish eagle's coming to get involved. Look. I wonder if it's not going to chase these herons. Here comes the fish eagle. It's being dive-bombed itself. This is so cool. Seb, you're doing a sterling effort. I can tell you that much. I'm sorry, elephants, that our attention's been drawn elsewhere for the moment. Just to watch one of these soar about is just so cool. Awesome. And the effortless sort of gliding pattern that they do is really, really so amazing to watch. And to think that that animal or that bird is not even using its wings at all yet. It's just gliding on the thermals that are starting to come up from the sun's rays now, and these hot airwaves that are rising, and it's able just to ride those in a circular fashion. It is amazing to think that there is no wing flapping at all, and a big heavy bird like that is just being kept up by air currents. It always astounds me, and it's just something so peaceful watching eagles soaring like this. I reckon this is probably some of the best I've seen of a fish eagle. So all the viewers that are saying good job to Sebastian, yes, that is very much a deserved compliment. Seb, you are doing a wonderful job. And Seb says thank you, everyone. He appreciates that. Wow. That is really cool to watch. Can you imagine the view from up there? Well, we can actually, because we've got the drone these days, and well, Connor is on leave unfortunately at the moment, but he gets up every now and then, and we do get these beautiful views from his drone sometimes, and it shows us what it does look like if we were an eagle. Now you can see our Ellies are still drinking. She's still playing with water on the edge there. What are you doing? Are you having fun? She's just in the grumpy mood. Now it's the water's fault. Maybe the water's not the right temperature. It's all being sprayed everywhere. Meanwhile, the herd on the left is also just creeped up ever so close to us. They're right behind us now. I didn't even notice them for a second there. Got so sort of sidetracked by the beauty of that fish eagle soaring and the herons and our elephant that is spraying more water everywhere than actually in its mouth. And I didn't realize the others were right here. See, she's still sniffing in our direction. What are you doing? I think it's because she's trying to drink, but... Oh, listen to that. That is the best call in Africa. That was the fish eagles that were busy calling there, and it is just... Whenever I hear that, it just gives me goosebumps because it reminds me of South Africa or Africa in general, and it's that sort of sound that is so often used. It really is the best sound to hear. But I think the reason why she's drinking like this is because of this green algae. So with the algae kind of coming in, as she's drinking trunkfuls, she's picking up all this green, which I don't think she likes at all, and that's why she keeps sort of spraying so much of the water out, and maybe hitting it with her trunk is trying to just separate all of that green algae, get rid of it, and trying to make sure that the water that she actually drinks is clean water and not this horrible dirty water that is floating in. So you can see in the background lots of that blue-green algae floating on the surface, and so if you're an elephant, I highly doubt you want that in your water, and so if she moves her trunk about and just clears that away, then she can get nice, fresh, clean water and be able to drink that. So you can see she's busy doing it now. She's just kind of disturbing the surface, chasing all the water away, making sure that that algae separates, and then she can drink the cleaner stuff. And you can actually see bits of that algae floating where she's just disturbed. And there's a little baby also having a drink. Well, she's certainly doing a good job of sprinkling the lawn, that's for sure. She's managed to water that whole area. Isn't that the colours, though, as they're walking along, now that the light is on our side, those blues and greens and then the greys of the elephant, really is a pretty picture. There's another great sort of screenshot for people that like to do the screenshots. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you want to show us all of your screenshots and the beauty of this sort of colours and nature at work. It's amazing the amount of colours that nature actually can produce and what we can see. It really is very, very, very incredible. Now, I wonder if they're going to rejoin with the rest of the ellies that are now behind us. That's cool. Hey, little one, have you caught up? So I believe a lot of you are really enjoying the sighting. Well, we are too. Sebastian, are you having fun? Yes, I'm having fun too. High five, yes. We do have a nice job, don't we, Sebastian? I'm going to just turn around so it makes Sebastian's life a little bit easier, because I'm trying to make him now film in an awkward angle. But here's our rest of our ellies, including our tiny baby who's sitting there, and this herd is going to come and join. Well, we've even got a warthog now as well, Sebastian. Look, there's a warthog also involved now. I wonder if these ellies are going to chase them. Often you'll find a young elephant might actually chase a warthog. It seems like the warthog's going to get off lightly today, but let's see. No. They've been noticed. Look, ears are out. So there we go. We're going to have a warthog-elephant standoff now. The warthog doesn't seem at all fazed by the elephants cruising around in the background. They're all pretty happy. Well, warthog's pretty happy with the elephants being close. Now, I wonder if she's going to have a little mud bath. She seems as though she's gone to some mud there. That front elephant is not sure what to do. Look, the ears are out, but it's not sure. Should I go and chase this warthog, or should I just stay with Mom? There we go, look. Indecision at its best. Come on, little one, make a choice. It's waiting for Mom. It's a little bit nervous of this whole thing. I think once Mom comes, it'll probably be a little bit more brave. Now, warthog, shame, is peacefully feeding. Hopefully it doesn't get chased. I'll feel bad for the little warthog. It's really got no chance when it comes to these big elephants. I think it's Mom that's going to end up chasing it. There we go. Sorry, warthog. You're going to have to move on. There we go. It's all very peaceful. At least there's no aggression there. It's not like the other day when we had some of the young ones chasing the Egyptian geese with all that they had. So it's all far more sedate. And it's just incredible to watch them now. From going in this open area, they formed this massive line, and it's going to be interesting just to see how they just disappear into the thickets. It's really going to be quite nice to watch that sort of process as they start going away from us. There we go. You can see they're all sort of stretched out now. So Zane, you say the best things happen at the end of the drive. Well, yes, they do. It's amazing how often it does happen where we get these sort of last minute things at the end of the drive. And well, it's probably because we've been able to explore a more sort of wider area, and we've gotten onto tracks and things like that. And also, it's maybe just to keep us all reminded that the hard work when it's quiet and when you drive around and you don't have much, that it can be rewarded towards the end of the drive. So I agree with you. It is very, 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 very irritating at times, but also amazing sometimes. It just adds to the whole suspense of everything. But our elephants are slowly departing the scene now, and like I say, they're just drifting into the thickets as they kind of go, and it's almost as if they know it's the end of show. It's that sort of time now where it's kind of coming to a close, and so they're almost as if it's been scripted now, departing away from the scene itself. Really, really cool. And I can see one or two of the vultures are also starting to fly now, but they're very far away, so don't worry, Seb. They're little black dots in the sky. Right, it's been a great morning. Seb and I have had absolute fun. We've managed to see all kinds of interesting things this morning, and I know Jamie seems as though she's had great fun trying to habituate the mongoose, and James in the tent. So from all of us, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all on the afternoon safari.